You're listening to Character Crusade number 24.
You're listening to Character Crusade.
Episode 24.
Yay! 24.
I thought you were neighing.
No. Watch me. No. Watch me whip.
Don't neigh.
Oh, come on. Watch me. Oh, my God.
Ixnay and Ipway.
Ooh, yeah.
I like that we're on 24. It's an even number.
I do, too.
There's no reviews this time. You know why? I think people are so busy downloading your mods and watching your video that they haven't had time to go and do reviews.
That's it. That's it.
It must be that.
Although I do think that it's fun because people, good friends of ours, longtime friends of ours, are threatening to send funny stuff to us, which I think is great. But you guys, I don't know if you saw it or not, I was having quite a lengthy Facebook conversation with one of our viewers, listeners, watchers, who wants to send us screenshots and send some detail about his role play. Just says that his friends just sort of don't get it. They don't do the same thing. You know, he's one of the only one who does role playing, and I think we've all probably felt that way.
We'll be your friends.
Absolutely.
We'll be your friends who understand.
I think,
understand.
think from the Netherlands, perhaps.
Okay.
It's from the Netherlands. So
Great.
I wouldn't be surprised if we saw some stuff coming through the forum. I suggested going that way. Easier than trying to just dump a whole lot of stuff out on Facebook, that's for sure.
Yep.
But I am going to set up, and we'll probably have some detail in a later episode about how we can get images to us. Right. There have been a number of folks who said that they wanted to submit screenshots. We'll get a box.com account.
Sure.
Set up just for Character Crusade.
But for now, they can just message us on Facebook and we'll figure something out. I mean, that's simple as that, right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Excellent.
Short term, that's probably the easiest.
Yeah, we want to have that stuff. We want to be able to post it and start building a little community around some of these characters, right? So, I mean, after all, that is really what we're talking about in this podcast is we're kind of seeing the world through our characters' eyes, right? So it'd be kind of fun to see other people's characters and what their projects are going on.
But I think to that end, we're also going to, I'm going to open up the group to everybody and everything, right? So be you a dragon or a Nord, you can join.
Okay.
And chat and share.
Even Dunmer and Argonians?
Even Dunmer and Argonians.
Wow. You're so open-minded, Matt.
That's the age we live in, Joe. We have to be open-minded.
Yes, we do.
Dogs and cats living together.
Yep. Cats and lizards, I guess.
And lizards.
And werewolves. So there's your dogs.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
That works.
Yeah.
Puppy.
You smell like wet dog. Yes. Okay. Well, great. I mean, I invite any kind of community involvement, so we all do. So there's stuff Matt is posting out on Facebook. I am posting almost daily on Twitter, some little nugget of something. Joe is posting furiously to our website.
No kidding.
There's a lot of reading material out there.
Blog.
Yeah, that's right. So let's talk about that a little bit. A couple of updates. Joe, you posted some new material this week, right?
I did. I think I'm going to start posting entire chapters.
Okay.
I mean, this isn't like I'm not a published author. I'm not a professional author. This is not a 400-page novel I'm working on. It's a short story. Okay. So I think I can afford to do a whole chapter, which might be, a dozen paragraphs between the lots. So
But that's great.
But yeah,
don't discount the fact that you're an author. Even if you're writing short stories, you're still an author.
Oh, no. That's not what I meant. But, see, yes, I have been throwing stuff up there on Ienarath's background, her origins, and
right.
I currently have up to 10 chapters completed. Each chapter averages about 3 parts. A couple of them go up to 4. Some are only 2, but on average 3.
Okay.
And I think, I think I just posted chapter 4.
Okay.
By the time of this recording. So what I'm going to try to do is alternate it between our podcast episodes. So
okay,
that's a good idea.
So the podcast will come out, and then the following week I'll publish one of the chapters for her story.
Almost like extra content.
Almost.
I'm a little interested in your process for writing. We talked about this in a couple previous episodes about how just sort of getting the thought process together about what you're going to write. Has that changed for you over the course of the last couple of months as you've been writing more?
Well, a little bit. I guess maybe it's become a little more refined. I mean, I have kind of the overarching storyline in my head, so I kind of know what, but I don't have any of the details. So that's where the whole blog post comes in, is putting that more into detail. And I could probably add even more, and really, I mean, I could probably draw this out if I were a more tenured writer, but for now, it's just starting to open up some of the thoughts and the details. And so I've got all the characters. I've got a little grid of who the characters are and how they relate. And
wow. So are you still writing exclusively in game, or do you just go straight to your...
I do both because they're both different.
Oh, okay.
My in-game is more of a first-person journal perspective.
Okay, yeah.
And this one is more of a third-person narrative.
Okay.
So
do they tie together at all?
They will. Yes, I'm coming up to that. I think I have one. Chapter 11 will likely be the last of the blog narratives, because from that point, I will have caught up to her journal entries of starting off in Blackreach.
Okay.
I think that's fantastic, honestly.
Right.
So right now, she has just, in chapter 10, reached her 20th birthday, which is the age where she leaves or attempts to leave her coven, or murder, as I think we unofficially dubbed it, of necromancers.
Yeah, we did.
So,
Yeah.
That's pretty awesome. So how many parts are generally to a chapter at this point?
like I say, about 3.
Three
Roughly
installments?
3. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very
Just
cool.
try to break it up into kind of logical chunks
Okay.
if I can.
Well, it's all out there, people. We just did chapter 4 last week.
Chapter 4.
Right? So
Yep.
you can read all the way up to chapter 4. And obviously, you're already talking about what's going on in chapter 10. So there's a lot of unpublished content out there
Wow.
still. So that's pretty crazy.
Every 2 weeks, alternating with the podcast is
That's
kind of
great.
the goal. So
Yep.
I'll do my best to stick to that. I mean, it's already
Love it.
out there. So then at this point, it's just a matter of rereading it, touching up a few things, and excuse me, and then just hitting the button.
Awesome.
What I really love about it is that you guys are just so willing to just put it out there. I know that it takes a lot of time to write it and polish it and do it the way that you want. I just, quite honestly, I haven't been willing to do that. Like, I don't think that any of the characters that I've got are as developed as yours are, and I think that that goes a long way to where you feel that your characters have come over their life, that there's enough of a backstory and it's deep enough of a journey to talk about.
This is the first character I've had in a long time where I feel there is a lot of that depth that I can do that with. I've enjoyed a lot of the other characters, both, you know, playing Skyrim and otherwise, but it's been a while since I've really connected to a character where I felt that I could build it up like this.
Yep. Well, I think that's terrific. And I think collectively, as the Gentlemen Bastards, we have had a fairly productive last couple of weeks. It's been
busy, but
kind of stinking amazing.
It's been a good, fun busy.
Yeah. Couple mods released. The Book of Circles came out, and then shortly after that, we released our House of Troubles Wilderness Hostel mod, which we talked about in the last episode.
Yep.
And we are up to almost 4,000 views and about 225 downloads as of this recording, which makes it officially the most popular mod we've uploaded to date.
Yes.
But
cool.
Granted, we're only at 5 mods, but that's 5 more mods than most people upload.
It's
so
a
I
start.
Guess
Just
feel
the
pretty
beginning
good about it. Yeah, and you know, there's been some a lot of nothing but positive feedback, which has been really great.
Yeah.
Positive feedback on the Nexus. We've had some people actually jump in and help us test a little bit with other mods.
I was gonna say,
Really?
I'd like to say, you know, thanks to those folks. I don't have your names in front of me, and for really that input. And you know, like every mod author, we really rely on the community to help us ferret out some of the issues that we just overlooked or didn't know about. So,
Right.
Yes.
And so you've been kind of working on a little bit of a solution for some of the things that we're encountering, right?
Yeah. We have some ideas on how to bring some resolution to some of the things that you've found, and they're actually really, happily, I can say, fairly minor. So I think the plan is in the near future. I'm not going to label when that is, but in the near future is to put out a 1-1 that will address these
little hiccups.
Right. Yeah. The what's the word I'm looking for?
Oh, the compatibility issues.
Thank you.
mean? Yeah.
The compatibility. I know it was a C word.
Yep. Well, we got some help from somebody on the Nexus going by the name Jairus Enigma, who helped us a little bit with troubleshooting our mod with the unique border gates mod.
Right.
And the report back that we got was that they were almost completely compatible already.
Awesome.
Which was great. And we've taken some steps to make sure that our mod is compatible with dyeable capes as well.
Yep.
So we also got some reports of some people who are using a mod called the Salt Mines of Skyrim. We haven't tested for that one yet, but we intend to. So when version 1.1 comes out, there'll be some options for people who are using salt mines if we discover that there's a conflict.
Right. Or if there's just a tweak we need to make it a little more accessible.
Yeah. So big thanks to all of you on Nexus who've been helping us out. We really appreciate it. And
that's awesome.
We've gotten some nice encouragement from people on Nexus who actually listen to this podcast, which is kind of fun too,
Yay,
which is great.
cool,
So we've kind of hitting a little bit of a new audience there. So really
Nice.
appreciate that.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
I signed up for Nexus finally.
Did you really?
I did.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that later.
I'd like to find out who signed up with the Naked Nord.
Somebody
I couldn't
did.
use the Naked Nord because somebody already did.
Oh,
What the hell is wrong with you people?
oh man.
Somebody got there first. Good for them.
Good for them.
Good
Yeah.
for you.
So it's
give it back.
been a big couple of weeks for Character Crusade on Nexus. Really pleased with the mod launch. Pleased with Joe's content. We are also very, very close to releasing 5 Fables Episode 2. Obviously not committing to anything here quite yet, but very, very close to release. We recorded a few more dialogue bits tonight, which will be going into the polished version of episode 2. So we're very excited about that. And I also wanted to give a big shout out to Packet Loss, because Packet Loss has single-handedly taken on creating a wiki for 5 Fables. And yes, little round of applause. Thank you so much, Packet Loss. If you haven't checked it out, he also has a really wonderful blog. I've been checking out his blog. He's got lots of great posts in there having to do with us and some of the stuff we've been doing, but then also his own misadventures in Fallout 4, which is pretty cool. He's got some really beautiful shots in there and some interesting things to say about his gaming experiences. So
we add a link to it in the
out,
show notes?
Yep, link in the show notes, people. To the blog, always in the show notes.
No Taylor Swift lyrics this time.
No, not this time.
All right.
Maybe next time. All right. So that brings us to our last mention, which is Patreon. For those of you who are interested in supporting Character Crusade, we have 2 Patreon campaigns going on right now. And one of them is for the podcast. The other one is specifically for 5 Fables. If you're interested in supporting us, you can support either one or both. It's up to you. We do have some rewards for those if you're interested in checking that out. For those people who are getting involved in supporting us, we are sharing a lot of the benefits between the 2 campaigns. So if you're contributing to Character Crusade on either of the Patreon campaigns, we're putting some exclusive material out there, which is some sample recordings and outtakes from our voice recording sessions. The printed scripts from every episode are going out there. We're going to be producing a couple of videos now and again for lost scenes. And then very shortly, I would like to put together some kind of a Q&A. So
Makes sense.
I don't know how that's going to work exactly, if it'll be a live Q&A, chat-based, Google Hangouts, I'm not sure yet. But, some kind of a 5 Fables or Character Crusade related Q&A. So look for those things. If you're interested in supporting us, feel free to do that on either of those campaigns. You can find all the information you need at charactercrusade.com or 5fables.com. You can link to everything from there. And even something like $1 a month is helpful. And if you can only give once, if you're a one-time giver, you can actually do that through Patreon as well. It doesn't have to be a recurring gift.
If someone wants to give $100 a month,
that's possible.
Oh, okay.
That's
well,
possible.
right. I just wanted to make sure that we weren't limiting people to $1 a month.
Yeah, we don't want to limit anybody.
Now, for folks who are rushing to type it in right now, it's patreon.5, as in the number 5, 5fables.com and patreon.charactercrusade.com.
Yep.
If you want to go there right away.
Yep. Check it out. We really appreciate it. It helps us a ton. All the resources kind of go into taking care of hosting fees, helping us keep the website up, helping us keep our file hosting going for the podcast.
And to build up the production gear library.
Yeah, I know. We
like the fancy multicolored cables.
Yeah,
here that are new.
Got to have multicolored cables.
Well, that way
they work better.
Yeah.
Yeah. Joe's got strictly green data. Strictly.
Mine's all yellow. Everyone said no yellow snow. What's the problem?
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Yours is red.
Exactly.
I don't know if that's red light district or stop.
No comment.
Stop in the red light district.
Yeah.
With Stu.
So that takes us to our next segment, which is going to be Mods with Matt. We're going to get an update on how things have gone for Matt thus far.
This is going to be a more boring update than you think, because I have spent so much time reading. Seriously, I haven't tried to install anything yet.
No?
So, no, not
What have you been
all.
reading about?
Where is it here?
You've been on the Step Wiki.
Yes, but I've been reading everything on Step, and then I started reading stuff out on Reddit. I signed up for Reddit, which may have been the worst decision of my life. I don't know. But there's so many fantastic install checklists and everything.
Jessa would be proud of you.
Yeah, she would.
Well, Jessa, I'm channeling you a little bit because I don't want to completely hose my machine. I use this computer for so much stuff that I haven't done anything. But the other thing that's disturbing me a little bit is the fact that I know that I want to go back and start another character. I think that I want to rebuild Einar Stegander's
Oh, I
brother
totally
or
get
sister or
Sure.
something so that I don't
Yeah.
have to worry
Or just
about
reboot
that.
Einar.
Could reboot Einar. Yeah, that's
Sure.
true.
Why not?
I might have to pull down all the previous photos of Einar because we'd have to erase him from collective memory. I'm thinking Einar's sister or something that would be a little bit further afield. Maybe not quite so muscular and scary looking. But
Enos Stegander.
Ina
Stegander.
Inga.
We could do Inga Stegander.
Inga Steganda.
So, but so far as that goes,
She
it
could be
seems
a
like it
wiki.
should be relatively straightforward. I know that they're trying to caution people against installing stuff in places
Yeah.
where you don't have admin rights. It's not a problem for me. But I do want to make sure that it's in a folder structure that's easy for me to get at later.
Right.
The only thing is that now I'll have, when I do that, I'll have to transpose everybody's written instructions into whatever I've got for me. So not a big problem. But being able to get stuff for load order, figuring out where things are going to get stored, which versions of files, I had a couple questions for you. As you're creating new versions of things, do you create archival folders for previous installs of mods within your mod install folder? So like if I have 4 different things for House of Troubles in the future, version 1, 1.1, 1.2, can you roll back to use a previous version just by dragging something back into your regular mods folder?
Well, I don't think you need to go to that kind of that manual step. I mean, if
File A, A1, A2.
yeah, I mean, you can do that if you want, but it may be as simple as just, keeping an archive of the zip file for whatever your previous
sure.
version was. But, most of the time, the mods are small enough that just going out to the Nexus and downloading a previous version isn't a problem.
Okay.
A lot of modders will keep old versions up so that, that's an option for people. Because there are some people who've just figured out how an older version works in their load order and want to keep it. But I don't know that it's always the case. You might want to check on that. But I found for the most part, if I need to roll back, I can just disable and remove a mod, go out and download the version I used to use again, or retrieve it even from my downloads folder. Mod Organizer keeps a downloads folder with all the zip files in it that you've pulled down.
Nice.
It's likely in there somewhere too.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I also
likely.
found there's so many people who are adamant that you should be using Mod Organizer or completely adamant that you should be using, the Nexus Mod Manager. And it's interesting. I'm going to start with the Mod
Apple
Organizer.
PC. I mean,
Exactly.
Chevy
I'm going to
or
start with Mod
Ford.
Organizer because I've got you guys to support me here.
Right.
And then we were going to talk a little bit about first mods to download and install. So I was trying to look
Right.
through the 150,000 or so weapon and armor mods and things like that.
There's a few.
Did you have a few suggestions for me as to which ones I might want to start looking at first, or do you think I should just do it based on character type and the story?
Well, I think you want something that you're going to notice in game.
Yeah.
So I think it would to
Colors
download a
and
mod
textures.
that's just one weapon might be kind of boring.
Yeah.
Something I would go on the angle of immersive weapons, immersive armors, which adds a whole pile of different things.
Okay.
Yeah. Lots and lots of new stuff in both categories, so you'll see the difference immediately. And a lot of the things it adds actually use vanilla assets. So they've
Right.
created a new armor using things that already exist in the vanilla game.
Right.
And they just kind of put them together in a different way. And
Okay.
it
So
builds a new armor set.
if he does that, Joe, then if you really want to see some impact, you go out and download the Ienarath Book of Silence,
That's
and that will
absolutely.
then retexture almost all of the stuff that you're getting in Immersive Armors and
Book of
Weapons.
Silence.
Ienarath Book of Silence, which is kind of a compilation mod that includes a whole bunch of vanilla armor and weapon retextures.
Okay.
And I believe it has a installer that gives you various options on how you want different sets to appear.
Yeah.
There's a few sets where there's I think was it the Thalmor armor or the glass might have 2 different variants of it.
Yeah,
Something
like
like
a
that.
blue and a green or things like that.
Yeah.
But it's all straightforward. It's,
Yeah,
it's
you just-
check boxes during install, and
Yeah.
that's it.
Click the radio button, whatever,
Okay.
and away you go.
So again, while you have these mods installed, you still have to presumably find the armor, buy the armor, build the armor.
Yes.
Well, yes.
Instead of
Yeah.
just, hey, I've gone to the shop.
right.
But what's nice about those mods is it also adds those new items to leveled lists.
Right.
Oh.
So you can find it on bandits and enemies. You can
Yep.
buy it in stores and stuff like that. So
And you'll
it's all
find
there.
new, because they are leveled lists, you'll find different things as you move up in rank and all that good stuff. Now, those are pretty big downloads. I think we touched on that before with your retextures, but
Both in terms of download time and in terms of
just
play
size.
right?
They're big.
Okay.
Yeah,
They're big
Yeah,
mods.
they're big. The immersive weapons and armor mods are big downloads and installs, but they aren't going to impact the performance of your game.
Well, because you're not running all of them at once. I hope.
You're adding a bunch of new items, but it's not like, your game's going to freeze up because you installed those.
Right.
Where you may see a bit of a difference is like with the Amidian Born Book of Silence, you're using higher resolution textures. That could have more of an impact on your game. So I don't know. Do you remember when you download that mod, are there different resolution versions of it, like a 2K and a 4K, or is there just one?
That's a good question.
You'll have to look, but
There might be.
yeah, sometimes you'll get multiple versions. Like maybe the default will be a 512
Sure.
res, and you can get a 1K, 2K, a 4K. It just depends on what you feel like your machine can handle, But
Right.
you can always start with the smallest and work your way up. But even the smallest one, you'll see a huge difference. I remember the first time I loaded that, I couldn't believe how great the armors looked, and it was still the vanilla armors.
Right.
So,
I'm going to start with that one.
yep.
Sweet.
So that takes care of weapons and armor sets. And then
NPCs was another one.
yeah, NPCs was another one. And we had a recommendation from a listener, right?
For Hoth.
Yeah. Hoth.
Which is one I've actually been curious to try for a while. I just haven't had the right player character to work with it. But
I tried Hoth once.
did you?
I liked him, yeah.
Yeah.
And he's actually made by Hoth Trooper, who is also the same person who makes Immersive Weapon and Armor compilation mods. But yeah, the NPC's name is Hoth. He's kind of a barbaric fighter type of guy.
Yeah. Big. Is it a big giant of a?
He's not overly large, but he's really intimidating looking. He's got kind of a skull helmet going on and
crazy look going on.
Yeah, and a strange, unique weapon. He's also fully voiced, and he has the added benefit of being a quest giver.
Oh.
He will occasionally give you radiant quests that will allow you to go out and do some bounty hunting and things like that. So he's kind of fun.
That might be a good option for a Einer spin-off type of character.
Right.
Yeah, for sure.
More to
I
do.
would agree.
Do you find that quest givers like that for modded NPCs give worthwhile side quests?
Well,
I mean, have you followed it much?
It's
you
kind
guys
of
have
unusual,
a very, very
actually.
different playthrough.
Yeah, no,
style.
it's not very common for the author of an NPC to create that type of an NPC.
Okay.
yeah, that's I think part of what makes Hoth fun and unique. So
I mean, there's plenty of quest mods, but not necessarily NPCs that offer quests.
Offer 'em. Okay.
Yep. So Hoth might be a good place to start. He's certainly not the most complex and feature-rich NPC out there, but he's a good one to start with, I think. Just getting going.
What's the most complicated NPC that you've seen so far?
That's got to be the Khajiit. What's his name?
Oh, start with a J, doesn't it?
Jar Jar?
No,
I can't remember.
no.
Jess is a huge fan.
I know.
Yeah.
Jessa, shout it really loud.
This is so dumb. We should totally be remembering this.
I know.
We're going to get it in the comments before
The
we
only
even
thing I
post
can
this.
think of is
Yeah.
Jarzago, but that's not right.
No,
He's one of the
Jazargo's,
college
yeah.
mage.
He's one of them. Tell you what,
You're going to look it up?
speak amongst yourselves. I'll look it up.
Are you playing with a lot of NPCs, Joe?
No, I really don't. I have a tendency to really play more of a solo type of game.
Sure.
If I do have a companion or a follower, I'll usually either use amazing follower tweaks and pick someone of my own choosing,
Okay.
or one of the available through the game, which would be like Lydia or any of the.
I'm
the
getting a
followers
little
like that.
tired of Lydia, honestly.
Yeah, Lydia's a great NPC to have, but
She just stands in the door frame and I can't get in and out half of the time.
she's really can take a lot and deal a lot of damage. Although I think you've managed to kill her once or twice.
I have, yes.
So well done. No,
Can you load up your goods on a follower? It would be nice if they
Yes.
could carry your stuff,
Yes.
and I haven't figured out how
yes,
to do that.
Yes, you can use them like a pack horse.
Oh.
And I don't know what their
Do they have
limit
carry
is.
limits? Can they
but
stop running if I give them 350?
I want to say that they have a carry limit, but I don't know what it is. It's pretty high.
Well, yeah. I mean, there's a standard, but I think the mod author can actually modify carry limit.
Well,
in
yeah,
the
for a
settings,
custom
so-
NPC, yeah.
Yeah, the NPC we're talking about is Inigo.
Inigo. That's it.
Inigo. Fully custom voiced, really, really well done. Lots and lots of dialogue.
Probably one of the favored NPCs
For
of
sure.
a lot of people.
For sure.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's a fun one. So we got you an NPC, we got you weapon, we got you armor, we got you a retexture.
Mm-hmm.
Now we were going to talk about player home.
Player home, and we found that living in the House of Troubles was not designed for that. So
Not
something
yet.
Not
else
yet.
as a recommendation. Now, do you typically put, when you started with player home mods, did you do it in town? Were you outside of town? How did you decide where your player was going to live? Because there's
Yeah.
presumably
That's a
you
good
can
question.
set a site flag or whatever it is and
Yep.
and get back there easily. Otherwise, I'll get confused as I'm running around trying to find all the stuff in all the barrels I've got.
Well, I think most player homes will probably have a map marker associated
Yep.
with them anyway. But
Yep. Depending on which one you choose, some of them may just flat out give you a map marker. Some may have you do a little quest or
Right.
go somewhere to
And
buy
earn
it,
it.
or
Yeah.
right.
things like that.
One that I like to really get, it depends on your character play, the type and kind of what you're looking for. I've chosen houses to, with, what are the features it has? Do I want, am I doing a character that I want all of the goodies? Do I want all the smithing station stuff? Do I want enchanting and potions? And
Yeah.
Right.
do I want it all? So, because not all player homes will offer that.
I'm kind of thinking that in a lot of cases, as I build up the next character, I want to feel like I can earn all that stuff,
Right. Build your own home is a really good player home. It's just past Valtheim Tower outside of Whiterun. And that one's nice because you can customize it pretty granularly on what you really want of it.
Okay.
It also takes, to do that, a lot of play time
Okay.
because you have to go and get all the materials to
And schlep.
build everything.
Yep. That one is about having an
takes-
experience.
Yeah. Okay.
You know?
It takes about 1,700,000 cords of wood,
Yeah.
about 4 tons of ore.
Okay. But if what you're trying to do is to really mimic what you would be doing in the game
Yes,
instead of
if-
buying the
if-
thing in town
Yeah,
with your
if you're looking for a
5,000.
house that's going to give you the experience of building the house and you just want, you want that play time of gathering the stuff,
Running
which is
around
going to
and
bring
mining.
you into a whole bunch of different things. You're going to go into mines and get ore and all that. That's a good one to go with.
Okay.
That's a good point. I mean, that one does force you to get out into Skyrim and gather up some stuff.
And you're going to level
you know,
all the while you're doing it.
And that's what I'm
Yeah.
thinking might be actually helpful. I'm almost thinking I would like to buy something to live in, something small,
Right.
And then nearby build the bigger, more permanent thing.
Sure.
Well, yeah, and that's an option too. There's one actually in Whiterun that I've done, and that's what is that called now?
Is it actually
Ranger Ridge.
Ranger Ridge? Okay, yeah, you've talked about
Ranger
that one
Ridge
before.
is in Whiterun. So if you're out leaving Whiterun and you're going, what would that be, west? Would that be west?
Yeah, you're heading kind of across the bridge toward Riften, right? You're heading going to
East,
you're going to Riften.
east.
Oh, okay, going the other way.
So you've got Whiterun, so north. Never eat soggy Wheaties. East.
Okay, that's a new one.
Okay.
So if you're going east,
That's awesome.
well, yeah, if you go east,
In
and
my
you-
entire life, I've not heard that.
me either.
Talk about growing up in
Never
Minnesota
eat
with
soggy
the
Wheaties.
home of General Mills. Geography
so-
lesson and cereal all in one.
well, there's the crossroads where there's the 2 bridges.
Yeah.
One brings you north to if you're going to go to Dawnstar or whatever, and the one keeps going east,
Yep.
and you go past the ritual stone and
Yeah. That's
So-
headed toward like you were going to Riften.
right. So the Ranger Ridge is that waterfall that kind of comes down where those bridges cross over.
Okay.
Yep.
If you hang a right and don't go over any of those bridges, it's up in that area. There's a bridge that the mod includes to go over, and it's on the other side of the falls. But that has everything in it. It's got smithing. It's got all the different crafting stations, and that one I liked. I thought it was pretty well done.
Yeah, and it's kind of close to a lot of different things, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's
close
right
to
on the
Whiterun
doorstep
there,
of Whiterun, and not far from Riverwood, I think. And
excellent.
Now, from a functional standpoint, when you're building a mod, all of these things that you build, if someone's got a new player home, it has to be constructed in a place where it's not going to be in contention with other things that are built into the game, right?
well, it
Because
depends
you were
on
talking about Jackson's Positioner as a really important part of some of these mods as they get more and more complicated. But you don't have to use Jackson's Positioner if you get one of these downloaded ones.
No, I think Jackson's Positioner is a really convenient mod to have. I know Stuart had recommended it for his smuggler's barrels because it allows you to alter the river banks a little bit. But no, if the mod author has done due diligence and has done what they can on the feedback that they receive, no, you shouldn't have to alter anything.
Okay.
Yeah. Jackson's Positioner is actually a mod that you could use to completely overhaul the attic in the House of Troubles and make it into a player home.
Right.
The nice thing about that is, if you're interested in doing that, you can use console commands to eliminate all the existing furniture in a space.
Add new furniture.
Bring in the furniture you want and use Jackson's Positioner to set it anywhere you want to. And just use it. So, I mean, it's great for a lot of different things.
Yeah, I've done that with the fortress down in Blackreach. I built it with Tundra Defense, but I also used Jackson to, when I consoled something in that I wanted, like a chair,
Okay.
and then moved it about, or just
I guess I
using the
better learn some
positioner
console commands. Huh?
to move things about. So it's just fine tuning and tweaking to your own needs. But there's so many good player homes out there that you really shouldn't need to tweak.
Are there mods for like pets and stuff like that? Sort of a dorky question, but I'm wondering because it's kind of nice to be able to come home and hang out with the dog or take the dog with you.
Yep. For Sagramore, he actually had a follower that was a wolf, and I think it's just called Wolf Follower. It's been out for kind of a long time.
Okay.
Yeah, and what's kind of interesting about it is the mod author created it so when the pet is initially created, it's created as a very small puppy, and you find it, and then you if you start feeding it, it'll start following you, and then over time it grows, and it eventually becomes a dire wolf. It becomes huge, like shoulder height.
Yeah, there's actually a picture
super
of it
fun
on the Character Crusade site.
I'm gonna go look.
It's Dire, the Wolf of War.
Yep, Wolf of War.
Skyrim Agochi.
Yep, he's got there's a couple of different pictures of him there. One in the gallery.
I think I've seen it. Yeah.
One in a couple other spaces on the site. But Sagramore and the
I always thought someone happened to be taking a picture during a kill cam and managed to get the picture of the wolf right before they were eaten.
Right.
And I believe Jessa is using a fox. Joran, I believe.
Joran,
That's name.
There's a number of different
I personally haven't looked out for any, but
follower mods for the various dogs available in Skyrim.
Right.
Some that actually enhance the dogs and make them a bit more useful, so you can command them to fetch things for you, and they'll come back with gear, things like that.
Will attacking trolls and everything else attack the followers first?
Well,
that depends on your play style more than anything, but yes.
Generally,
I just remember Ari was saying that she was getting attacked by stuff and she didn't know it. I didn't know if that would have been solved by having.
That would have helped. Yeah, I mean, a follower will distract an attacker, and if you can put enough distance between them, then they'll focus all on your follower.
Yep.
There's also a dog in game that you can have as a follower.
Okay.
Yep.
You can find.
Yep.
So
on the opposite end of things, what is the most absurd follower you have seen?
Oh my gosh, that's a good one. I don't know
if I've
dragon follower.
I don't know if there
actually,
are followers. That would be absurd.
I don't know if it's actually a follower or not, but Dark Fox 127 made a mod that was a chicken.
Oh, there.
It's a chicken with a saddle on it. It's small, but it's a chicken with a saddle on it. You can basically, I think you can take it on as a follower, but he made it to be this kind of asinine thing where it just does random things and talks to you and does weird stuff.
Wow, too much skooma.
Yeah, to the point where like sometimes it will shut your game down. Like the chicken decides to shut your game down and he has it set up so it will shut off Skyrim.
Oh no.
And then you got to restart. Like, you know,
clucker.
so
Wow.
yeah, but I think it started out kind of just as an experiment for him. There's one other thing
That's
that
like
I
walking
should
by
mention.
someone's room and yelling Xbox off.
There is somebody out there who made a mod quite a while back though that is actually a sword that has a personality that speaks. That will communicate with you, and it's kind of like a weapon and a follower all at once in a way. But I thought that
That
was
would be
sort of a
really
fun thing.
that'd be kind of an interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's a sentient weapon basically where it'll speak to you.
I don't think I've seen that.
Yeah.
I'm getting cold. I must be bathed in blood.
So yeah, plenty of options there. And of course, House of Troubles, that is a requirement.
And that is on the list without a doubt.
So
Now that'll drop in its own single place, though, right?
Yep.
Yes.
Yep. House of Troubles always shows up in the same spot.
Yep. And these other mods and will too. So
Yeah, which I think, according to somebody on the Nexus, the place that we selected is known as Talos Pass.
oh, that's good to know.
Yeah, I didn't know.
I scoured the interwebs looking at
Sort of
every
makes
map
sense.
I could
Yeah.
find, and
Yeah.
if I found maps with good roads, they were never labeled, and
Yeah, well, that's what this
it was so
individual referred
difficult
to it as, but it
locate.
was in the context of the unique border gates mod. So I don't
Oh.
know if the maker of that mod named the pass themselves or if that's actually what it's called, but Talos Pass is how it's been referred to.
Okay.
Okay,
So
well,
neat.
We'll go with that.
Let's do that. Sounds good. Sounds good to me.
Good to me.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm super excited to get in and do it. I just haven't downloaded or installed anything
Yes.
yet because I wanted to try to make sure that I was being delicate with the PC.
Yes. Well, we're excited to hear about your experiences. So you've got a pretty good list of 5 or 6 different things you can try out. I'm looking forward to the report back.
And beyond that, I'm going to be recording what happens as I install it. We talked
Awesome.
about that on
Yeah.
the last podcast. I've
Cool.
got a couple of things I'm going to try to do to record it. I want to figure out the easiest way to both get what I'm recording on screen and my probably not very funny facial reactions and everything to it because I've been stymied by some things in the past. I might as well show off my ugly mug, right?
Why not?
But again, I think the most exciting part about this is that I'll finally be catching up to the thing that when we were talking in episode 1, when I was going to be playing only on the Xbox, I already caved in and went PC.
Yeah.
Now I'm taking the next step.
Yep. The next step.
Now
Cool.
I've gone past the free razor and now I'm buying new cartridges. So, but again, the thing is I bought since I bought the legendary edition of the game, I don't know what is a DLC and what isn't. Everything was just part of the game.
Right.
So-
Yeah, that's interesting perspective.
So I don't know
Yeah.
what the game came with.
I played it for a
Except
long time
everything.
with no DLC. So when I loaded DLC, I immediately noticed the differences. So
right.
I hadn't really thought about
I
that.
hadn't even thought if I could turn anything off. So I just have been playing away.
Well, that's a great update. I think it's time for us to get into our play theory segment, which tonight is called Hooks. So tonight's play theory segment is called Hooks. And what Hooks is all about is taking a look at the game and the DLC that we all know and love, Skyrim, and finding small things in the game that we can hook into to further expand our character's story or even base an entire playthrough on. And a lot of times when we think about doing this, we're thinking about how can I incorporate my character into Skyrim using some of the larger, more dominant quest lines? But I think there are a lot of opportunities in the game that are can be found inside of things like, minor scenes and events and items and stuff. There's all kinds of interesting little Easter eggs hidden away inside this game that will allow you, if you think about it, to create a nice little hook that can drive an entire character concept. So tonight, we're going to talk a little bit about some of these interesting little things that we found in game and some ideas about how they could be made into a character hook. I guess I'll start the conversation by just laying out very quickly an example we've talked about many times, which is the example I used with Aranis Arcana and using a minor character in Linway who appears very late in the Thieves Guild questline as a foil for my character going in at low level. I knew that as a 10th level character, it was going to be a very long time before I progressed far enough through the Thieves Guild questline to ever encounter Linway. But introducing Linway at the very beginning of my playthrough as a person who had betrayed my character and was the ultimate target for his vengeance later on, set the stage for everything he did after that. And Linway is a very minor character in the grand scheme of the entire story.
Well, I think what helps speak to the success of doing that is so many episodes later, there was always someone or several people commenting, what about Linway? Are you still going after Linway? And I think that speaks volumes on how well you took that minor instance and made it into something so much larger.
How it resonated,
Yeah. And we hear about this all the time from listeners who will say, I've decided to make such and so NPC my brother or sister, or something like that, where they've gathered up something in game and they've made it part of their narrative.
Right.
And there's so many opportunities to do that. What I love is the idea of exploring all the little obscure things in the game and how could we latch on to them to build something interesting.
For sure.
Yeah. So let's talk about some possible options. One of the things that I put at the top of my list was just a concept I'm calling dead horses. And let me explain.
A handful of them scattered about.
Dead horses. Yeah, there are a handful of dead horses scattered across Skyrim. 3 come to mind right away. One is down in Falkreath in the middle of the woods. You'll encounter 2 dead horses and a burning carriage and some burned bodies and some stuff laying around, right?
Been there.
Right.
Amazingly, I've been there.
That is awesome. Oh, high five. Yes. So, there's something right there, right? Yeah, it's a dead horse. It's a scene. It's an entire scene. And what does that scene mean to you, right? So if you're thinking about that scene in your head before you even create a character, it's possible that could set the stage for an entire playthrough.
Sure.
So when we encounter that, we have no idea what has happened. All we see is that this is burning. Did bandits attack? Was it a dragon attack? What horrific thing happened here that killed these people, right?
Right.
Who somehow ventured onto this road that was overgrown and they probably shouldn't have been on, a long deserted road through bandit-infested woods, right?
The road less traveled turned out to be the wrong place to go.
Exactly. So when you think about something like that, it's really easy to consider, I'm going to create a new character, and this character is maybe going into Skyrim to find, a relative who was emigrating to Skyrim and went missing, right?
Right.
Now, one of the burning bodies in that scene happens to be that relative now. We've kind of established that. And at some point, you're creating a situation where your character is going to encounter that scene at whatever point, and that is going to be an interesting point of growth or turning point in the character story.
Yeah, what are they going to do? I mean,
what do they do
next?
They
need to find out who did it or... what?
Yeah. So now you've gone from just making Skyrim and all that's in it a bunch of things that are just happening to you to being part of your narrative. And that's what we're really trying to do.
And I'm thinking you could either hunt down the people that did it or go find them and thank them.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I guess it all depends on how well you're...
Because there is some stuff down there that you can pick up too. Right?
Yes, there is. And what I really love about these kinds of things is you can take a minor scene like that and you can turn it into a mysterious and interesting chain of related or, kind of unexplainable events, right? So that particular scene, when I think about it, I love that one because no matter how many times I encounter it, it gives me the creeps every time. And what's really...
Yeah, I mean, why?
Yeah, well, that's just it. It's not explained, and that's what makes it interesting. And that's what this game does a really good job of doing, creating these kind of little open vignettes that you can latch onto and make them any kind of story you want.
Right.
So in this particular scene, we've got a couple of dead horses, a burning cart, and all this stuff. But if you stand there and you actually look around, you'll see that up on a cliffside overlooking that scene is some kind of a Nordic shrine. And if you climb up to it, there, I believe there is a shrine to Akatosh there that looks right down over the top of that scene of that burning cart. So you climb up there and you find that. And now Akatosh is this god represented by a dragon, right? And now you're starting to think dragon attack. It doesn't necessarily make sense, right? But something feels right there.
Yeah.
And then you take a little turn to your right and you move a little bit over and you find this really odd thing on the ground, a formation of mushrooms growing in a perfect ring. And you're like, what?
I must not have gone that way.
What does that mean? What does that mean?
Dragon
I
droppings.
can go around in a perfect circle and I can harvest all of these mushrooms, or I can sit down in the spot for a minute and try to think of what could have caused mushrooms to grow in a perfect ring.
Yeah.
And it's just weird stuff like that all chained together can start to tell a little bit of a story. So
That's cool.
That's one that comes to mind. And why I'm calling it dead horses is because we have that. We also have the instance of some dead horses along the road where we find Falmer arrows. And the idea is Falmer crawling up from underground at night and ambushing carriages. There's nothing more frightening than Falmer above ground, right?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that whole concept is frightening.
Yeah. Yeah, they don't belong.
Yep. There's another similar scene with a dead horse and a couple of dead mages that you can find along the winter road between Morthal and, as you're kind of heading towards Dawnstar there. And if you encounter that at just the right time, you'll actually encounter one of the mages still alive fighting two bandits. So you can actually come upon the scene and possibly save someone or get engaged with those bandits in combat. And so I call it dead horses because I feel like every time I see that,
Makes you wonder what.
It makes you wonder what, and it presents an opportunity to tell a story.
Yeah, and to build something on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So that's kind of one of the first things that came to mind. And I think of those as discrete little scenes that you can latch on to.
Sure.
So, yeah.
I like it.
So that was kind of, as you're going on, kind of reminded me of one of the smaller side quests that is given by Freya Greymane in Whiterun when she's looking for her missing son.
Oh, yeah.
I think that has the potential to give you something to work with, to maybe you're related, or maybe because it is possible to come across her son,
Thorald, right?
Yeah, Thorald. Before you even meet with her, if you happen to be in the right place at the right time, you can find this body. So maybe it's a relation, or it could be something that you could latch onto in that way too. It's a very minor side quest that really doesn't play into the big picture with anything, but you certainly could make it.
Yeah. I mean, all of these things have interesting potential, I think.
And that's, speaking of current characters, that's what I did with Ienarath. Is I took basically a boss of an end fetch quest and made her the protagonist of Ienarath's story.
Okay. You're talking about the Caller?
The Caller, correct.
Right, from Felglow?
Yep.
Yeah, and I mean, that is that is a really minor quest. It's a fetch quest to go get some books.
Pretty much. Yeah.
You know, but it's the collar has become a little bit of kind of a linchpin as that antagonist in your character's story. Right. So yeah. That's a great example.
My, collar is to Fleet's Linway.
Yeah.
Really.
Exactly. I love those kinds of things because I think they create this opportunity, that this anticipated turning point, which I think is really amazing.
What was fun about that is one of the mods I have, and I can't remember which one it is, but it gives names to otherwise not, otherwise you just get bandit. So it'll generate a name for it. So that's where I got the 3 mages in Felglow.
Oh, really?
Ienarath made her special meal from.
Link in the show notes. Yeah. Okay.
So that's where I got those names from.
That's cool.
So I took unassuming randomized characters created by the quest, the fetch, and I developed a storyline for them. And actually in chapter 10 of the blog, in a few weeks or months when it's out, you'll find out
20 weeks from now.
You'll find out exactly what happened.
Yeah.
You'll find out why.
That's so cool.
Why Ienarath despises them so much.
That's very cool.
But it gives some life to those characters that otherwise would just be, you'd pass them by and never give them another thought.
Right.
Yeah. That's completely true.
In this case, it's had a profound impact, and it was a turning point in that character's storyline.
But for just about everybody else, they're completely forgettable. And for you,
they're completely forgettable. And chances are you won't come across those same names that I did if you happen to have the same mod in.
Right. So, I mean, these are great examples of what I would call NPC hooks.
Right.
In the Dead Horses example, we were talking about scene hooks, but these are great NPC hooks, right? Like the collar and like Linway and so forth.
Right.
I think you can also come up with some concepts that are maybe a little bit more obscure, where rather than an NPC being the specific focus of your attention, an NPC is the trigger of something that becomes a turning point. So we've all probably had this moment in Skyrim where you're suddenly approached in the wilderness by this frantic woman who says that she was being held captive in a place called Mistwatch by some bandits.
Right.
And then she'll mark your map, tell you where Mistwatch is.
Yep.
And when you go there, then you can discover the bandits who are basically kidnapping people, holding them for ransom and stuff like that. Right. Now, granted, there have been a couple of times where I've encountered this woman in the furthest depths of the Reach. And I'm like, woman, this is the Reach. Mistwatch is way the heck over in the Rift. Why are you still running? I'm pretty sure you've gotten away by this point.
Out of room.
Yeah. And by the way, how did you make it all the way across Skyrim in nothing but rags? I think I'm going to travel with you for a while. I'm getting accosted everywhere I go. But anyway, that aside, it's something like that, right? Where you can encounter this person, and then that takes you to Mistwatch, where you can have this experience, right?
Right.
And when you get in there, there's the standard experience, which is, there's a guy, and we run into an NPC there who claims his wife is missing, and he thinks she might be hidden there. And can you go find her and all that kind of stuff, right?
Yep.
Now, that's all well and good, but I think what's interesting about Mistwatch and just about every other little bandit castle or whatever in the game is that at some point they all have little dungeon or prison areas that have people in them, either dead or alive.
Right.
And any one of the people that you find dead in a dungeon, for example, could be an individual that is important to your narrative.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So there's all those kinds of opportunities. Yep. Plus there is the little radiant things where you find a couple of bandits and you kill them, and then you find a body of a woman who they murdered laying there, and she's got a note on her that she was tracking those bandits down to try and find some family heirloom she thought they'd stolen. Right? That kind of thing. That's a super minor NPC. You don't even interact with her except through this letter, but conceivably an NPC that you could latch on to in some way. Could be, I don't know, a lover or a family member or, something like that. Or even a complete stranger whose story moves you to the point where you feel like you must take action or something, that kind of thing.
Well, yeah, speaking of that, I mean, you could take that concept to, items, books.
Yep.
Again, current example, my character Ienarath has migrated towards the Baron Zaya story. So she grabs and looks out for any of those tomes that she can find so that she can come bring them back and put them in her library.
Yeah.
So she's bonded or related somehow to that story. She somehow can feel a personal connection to it.
She's become kind of fascinated with Baron Zaya as a historical character and has really started collecting materials related to Baron Zaya.
Right. So, I mean, and there's a lot of different books out there that are volume sets that you could do something like that with. Take a little passage out of one of them or a note or a journal.
Yeah.
And take it and run and just build a story around it.
Yeah. So, okay, there we've got another category, right? An item level hook.
Mm-hmm.
There are a lot of items in the game that are these huge, epic kind of Daedric items.
Oh, for sure.
Right?
Yeah, all the artifacts.
Right. It'd be, it's obvious to latch on to one of those, but you could even do something a little bit different and maybe focus your attention on something like Bowler's, I think it's Bowler's Oath Blade. The Oath Blade, which is in Bloated Man's Grotto. You can find that there. It's basically
Bloated Man's Grotto. Really?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. I ain't been there yet.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, Bloated Man's Grotto. But it's a magical sword on a pedestal and all fancy, right? But it, maybe that is the weapon of your, lost by your uncle when he was on such and so crusade back in, whatever time, right?
Sort of your own Excalibur, right?
Yeah, your own little Excalibur. You're going to go and find that sucker, and that's your objective, right? And how you go about it is up to you. Is that a beginning, mid, or end game kind of a mission? I don't know.
Right.
But
well, we've talked about it before, and that's collecting things.
Mm-hmm.
If you're like the orc I was playing, collected all the orcish weapons you could find. So maybe that's your hook is to go out and retrieve all these relics or these heirlooms or items. Maybe you want to collect or try to retrieve all of the daggers from the dragon priests.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing special about them other than they're a dragon priest dagger by name.
Right. But the fact that you collected one off the bodies of a bunch of dead dragon
personally
priests
speaking,
cool.
I don't know why, but I always grab them.
I know I do too.
I always grab their cloaks too.
Nobody else is going to have it.
They're garbage, but still they're somewhat unique.
Maybe there's
they feel like a relic.
There's a story there on why you would do that. Maybe you've got some background story of your great whomever that forged these daggers, or I don't know.
Right.
Make up your.
But that's the great part about it is as long as you continue to work through that story.
Why are you doing that?
Yeah. Yeah, I like this idea, right? Great-great-grandfather. No. That's some distant relative, right? Because we know the dragon priests are from a long-ass time ago, right? Long time. So, maybe some historical figure from the past, right? Forged those, and they were stolen by the dragon priests, and now you're going to reclaim them and put them in their proper place, or who knows what, right? But it's a minor object, but it can be the focus of your attention.
Maybe they were forged by the Sijiks, and you can relate, or you're a unknown Sijik yourself, and you feel drawn to go retrieve all those blades back.
Right. Or maybe they're just so ugly. I'm just going to rid Skyrim of them because they're so ugly.
That's why I always leave the masks on. I never take the masks because everything underneath is just so hard to look at.
I've always kind of liked, the item level hook. They're sort of fun. And the more minor and obscure the item is, I think the more interesting it becomes. And the idea of collecting is
so wide open.
Cool too.
It makes it very personal to your quest, your story.
Yep, absolutely. So, okay, we've talked about NPC hooks, scene hooks, some item level hooks. Another one I want to talk about is event hooks.
Okay.
And I think there's probably a number of different things that could be classified in as event hook.
Right.
But specifically, I want to think of different ways of looking at common events.
Right.
So one of the things that is pervasive amongst anybody who's gotten to level 1 in this game at some point or another has experienced the Helgen thing. The dragon attack on Helgen.
Yep.
Yes. Even Matt.
Even me.
Even Matt has seen Helgen. So the thing is, right, like in the authored experience, as Alistair would say, the authored experience.
But he would say it much more cool than that.
Yeah, he would, but I can't talk like, no one can talk like Alistair.
Well, other Scottish people perhaps. But
Well, maybe. Yeah, he's got an interesting...
Sean Connery, maybe?
Yeah, maybe.
He has an interesting North American lilt.
Yeah, he does. He's he grew up in a lot of different places, but primarily Scotland. So I think that's what's responsible.
Feel free to send us an audio
accent.
file, Alistair. That would be really helpful.
Yep, thank you. I think everybody's kind of had the authored experience of Helgen. I'm in the middle of it, and blah, everything's nuts, right? But I think one of the things that I find interesting is when you have the authored experience, right, you've got every reason in the world to be upset with dragons. Right. I mean, they destroyed this place and killed stuff and all that, and you were there and almost got killed yourself. But the impetus for you hating dragons is that those dragons almost killed me, and that makes me mad. Whereas we could take a different approach to Helgen entirely and say, using a mod like Alternate Start, we could say the Helgen experience happened, but I'm an outsider coming into Skyrim. It didn't happen to me, but it happened to somebody I loved who lived in Helgen, right? Now I've got even a stronger reason to hate the dragons and want to kill them.
Right.
And going to Helgen is a pilgrimage rather than having been in the middle of it when it happened.
Well, at some point in Alternate Start, you have to go find a burned body and get something off of them. I think regardless of which start you use.
Yes.
Perhaps that body is the person that you were going to meet.
And that's the beautiful thing about Alternate Start. It allows you to have that Dragonborn experience if you want to, but approach it from a completely different angle.
Yeah.
And so for me, for some reason, the idea of pursuing the dragons as Dragonborn from the perspective of somebody who's trying to avenge a person killed at Helgen is more compelling than having been there.
Than just anger.
Yes. Exactly.
Or could compel you more to despise the Imperials.
Maybe. Yeah, I mean, if I'm coming out of Helgen, having just barely escaped execution, I'm thinking, thank God for Alduin, because if it wasn't for him, I would be dead right now, right? Which is a very different thing than, arriving in a shipwreck off the northern coast of Skyrim as you journey, to Skyrim to try and, figure out what happened to your lost relative who lived in Helgen that you haven't heard from.
This is the fabled place where you can't swim from the shipwreck with frostfall, right?
You gotta be careful.
Difficult.
Okay.
Yeah. If you look hard enough, you'll find a couple of potions in that shipwreck that'll help you survive the swim, but you got to really look.
Yeah.
So
That's a tough one.
But again, same kind of thing. I mean, if that's where you start,
yes,
maybe that's the beginning part of your story.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And think about this. Now, this kind of starts a snowball rolling, right? You start with that little hook, but once you got the hook, now there's a whole bunch of interesting things that you can start to build on. So then the question is, if I decide that I'm going to use Alternate Start and choose the shipwreck option, where was I coming from? And why was I coming there?
Right.
And, doing a little bit of research on the wiki helps you to understand that there's a whole continent north of the Ghost Sea called Atmora, where all the original Nords came from, and there's people that still live there. What if I'm part of that old culture and I'm coming to Skyrim for the very first time, knowing my relatives have emigrated here, and I'm following in their footsteps, right? Maybe I'm coming to Tamriel completely unfamiliar with the races and the customs or the language or the religion. Maybe I still maybe I still worship Shore. Maybe I don't know anything about the 9 divines and all that stuff, right? Now suddenly you've got this completely different scenario where, oh, my ship crashes. Not only that, but I'm completely like stranger in a strange land now, right? I'm not someone who is just, sailing the Ghost Sea from, I don't know, Windhelm or something like that and just got stuck in a squall or hit an iceberg. It's like I'm from a different culture entirely, but with my roots based in the same Nord bloodline as the people who live here.
Right.
That'd be interesting. So little sidetrack. Are there mods that will change the voices to different languages, or is it always English in our case?
I don't know. There's probably specific custom NPCs that may have been voiced in different languages. I don't really know.
It just seems like for someone who's a stranger in a strange land, there's no ability for you to do anything until you've been around long enough that you would be able to start picking up language.
Yeah, I don't really know.
I suppose you could change the language on the game.
Yeah.
That would be an option.
But I don't know if that makes NPCs speak in anything other than English. I think they always speak in English, but what you get are different written languages for buttons and activators.
I think it would be kind of interesting because if you are
so
so disconnected from your current location, your shipwreck scenario, not only is it not helpful when you can't speak to people, but it takes a while to figure it out. So just because you can hear the Khajiit are sitting in a tent and they look like they've got lots of stuff. Oh, look, he wants to. I have to assume that maybe he wants to buy something. So
I think what's interesting is just the whole experiment of take a tiny little hook, get that in there as your start, and then see what builds on it naturally, and you'll go in some surprising directions.
Yeah, the game, I know you've experienced as well as I have. You start with that little idea, and then the next thing in game you hit something else, and it just seems to naturally dovetail or gets you another spark to build on. And the gameplay itself is going to help lead your story.
Absolutely.
So if you give a skeleton or a framework to hang on, let the game dress it up,
be your guide.
And absolutely a mod like Alternate Start plays really, really well with this concept of creating a hook. So if you think of a hook to start with, create a new character and then select something from Alternate Start that fits the story of your hook, and really reinforces what you're trying to do. Perfect.
They need an alternate start where you start in the House of Troubles.
You know what? This is an interesting concept because one of the things that was particularly exciting for us is that the very day that we posted our mod, we got a comment from Manny GT, who is an Italian modder who's probably one of the more prolific modders out there. I think he's got 65 some Skyrim mods to his credit. And he's created some of the mods that all of us use. And he has a couple of mods in his inventory that he has adapted for Alternate Start. So there actually is a way to set it up so that a custom mod will be included in the Alternate Start options as a cool place that you can kick off.
I think it'd be kind of neat though, just because you could skip the whole Helgen thing in the beginning, skip the shipwreck thing, and all of a sudden you find yourself having been kidnapped, and now you find yourself coming to in the House of Troubles.
Yeah, sure,
it's very possible.
Yeah. We had toyed around with the idea too of, wouldn't it be fun to do an Alternate Start integration where when we all have the authored Skyrim experience, you have an Imperial soldier telling you that you got captured trying to cross the border illegally.
Right.
Well, House of Troubles is right on the border with Cyrodiil. And I thought, wouldn't it be fun to have an alternate start option where you're standing outside the mouth of a tunnel on the Cyrodiil side of the border, just outside the House of Troubles, right? Where, you know, your goal is to crawl through that tunnel and come up somewhere on the other side, right? And you know,
you're get caught.
Yeah, you're trying to get past that Imperial checkpoint and sneak into Skyrim, and you know, that'd be super fun. And I don't think that it would be overly complicated to do. It's something I would love to try at some
Oh, I'm
point,
sure we
but-
could figure a way
Oh, sure.
to complicate it.
Oh, well, yeah, we always do that. We always do that.
Make it harder.
Yeah, why not? So, anyway, anything else, guys? I mean, I think it's a pretty good discussion.
And that's fantastic.
Hooks, baby. Yeah, get out there, find some hooks.
You got the hooks.
Yeah, and we didn't even talk about, you know, some of the hooks that you can find in the DLC as well. It's just there's rife with these little scenes or vignettes or items or, you know, things that you can latch onto. So
Yeah.
get in there, explore.
Yeah. Mooring Tong.
Oh yeah, that whole Morag Tong thing, and I would just, you know, dig into the wiki and look for its obscure little things.
Yeah,
that
find a little
that-
passage. I know
Yeah.
when it comes to like the deities or the, you know,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's Aedra or Daedra.
Yep.
I know you, Stu, have a tendency to kind of like to migrate towards those lesser known and lesser
Yeah.
written about, which lends
Yeah.
itself perfectly
Mm-hmm.
because it gives you that much more to build on for
Yeah.
yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, if you want to take more of a worshiper type of angle, you could
Mm-hmm.
pick out an obscure reference from
Yeah.
some on the wiki from one of the deities,
I love doing that stuff.
and
Yeah.
Or a disprover.
or
Yeah,
disprover.
that's right. Yeah, I mean, one example we've talked about in the past was a character I played quite a while ago named Circle, where the whole concept was that he had terrible amnesia and didn't know who he was. He didn't know what his name was. And so it first of all helped to explain the concept of how you could have this person who was suddenly acquiring these really deadly and amazing skills so quickly. I'm kind of explaining those in his story by saying these are skills he already had and he's remembering how to use them, right? Well, one of the things that's happening to this character is he's being attacked by assassins, which happens in Skyrim. As you advance through the storyline, you'll be randomly attacked by Dark Brotherhood assassins, right?
Yep.
And naturally, you know, he's a guy who doesn't understand who he is or what his past is, but he's thinking, what have I done in my past that would cause people to do this?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Oh, that's a great point because they are not explained. The
Exactly.
only thing the note says that you find on any of the assassins is that somebody wants this poor fool
Yes.
dead.
Somebody wants
So
you
who's
dead.
that somebody?
Who's that somebody? Now, imagine I'm playing in the mindset of a character who doesn't understand any of this, is kind of paranoid, being attacked, realizing that he has the skills to defend himself, and it is I kind of in that scenario I used alternate start and started out in the Thieves Guild. And I think, as I've explained before, he chose his own name of Circle
Yep.
when he appeared in the cistern and saw the circle. It was the first thing he saw. And it was literally when I kicked off that mod and it transported me into the Thieves Guild, materialized from black, and I see the scene. The first thing I see is the cistern. Circle. Boom. That was it, right? And then he doesn't know who friend is. He doesn't know who enemy is. At some point early on in that character's story, I ended up infiltrating Blackbriar's house.
Oh, okay.
And I did it on a lark just because I wanted to.
Right.
Because I wanted to prove that I was a great thief. So I broke into Maven Blackbriar's house, and I'm going through her house stealing everything that I can get my hands on while there's people in the house.
That's awesome.
And I snuck down into the cellar, found a remote room in the basement with the door locked. I opened the door, and there's all the Circle for the Dark Brotherhood ceremony stuff in there. And immediately it was like Circle was like, Maven Blackbriar wants me dead. Why does she want me dead? We're supposed to be allied with her, right? And
Wow.
suddenly that clicks in, right? It all snaps. Things start to snap in place. And,
Nice.
And I think that took a character from being paranoid to being ultra paranoid. And it really changed the
And
way that I
probably
approached
very
everything
driven.
from that
Yeah.
point, because shortly after that, she started personally requesting me for missions.
Oh,
and so
right.
where normally a character would say, well, I'm the perfect person for this mission, and she realizes that, and everybody realizes that, to him it was like, she's going to continually
trying to
send
set
me on
me up.
stuff to either set me up or get me killed,
Yeah.
right? So now I'm going to prove to her that I'm unkillable, right? And it was that kind of it changed the whole complexion of the
Nice.
Very
story,
cool.
but it was two tiny hooks sort of stuck together that did it.
Right.
And I think that's where these things can build on one another. So
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And that was a instance of something that happened in game that coincidentally just
Yeah.
vaulted you to the next, the
Yeah.
next level of that character's development.
Exactly. And we actually used a character image of Circle as the artwork on our very first podcast episode. So,
Oh yeah.
if you look at podcast number 1, that's Circle. Got the face paint and the circle in his forehead, and he's a mess, psychologically anyway.
He's creepy.
He is. It's fun to play, though.
Perfect character representation of podcast number 1.
A hot mess. No, it was a blast.
Totally.
40 minutes of just incredible chatter.
Now I'm going to have to go and listen to it on the way home tonight.
Incredible and unguided or undirected chatter.
Sort of inane, but we got to get started
It was
somewhere.
fun, yeah.
I think we like to call that unscripted.
We do. Okay. Well, this was terrific, fellas.
Lots of hooks, lots of
Lots
options.
and lots.
Let us know what hooks you use, what builds into your game.
Yep.
Yeah, throw them out there. I'd love to hear.
We have
Your ideas
many
as
ways
well.
for you to reach out to us now.
Yep. Hit us up on Facebook. You can connect with us on Twitter at Character Walk. You can find us at 5fables.com, which will take you directly to the 5 Fables landing page, but you can get to the rest of our content from there. And then, of course, as always, at charactercrusade.com, we have a form on many of the pages there. Feel free to send us messages. We have a small stack of listener mail that we need to get to. We'd like a much larger stack. We would love to use some of your questions as the focus for upcoming episodes. So please use that form. Send us any questions, comments, ideas that you have. We love every single one of them. Well, we've come to the end of another episode. We would like to thank fans of the show for your faithful and undying support. You're all undead. Oh, God. And continued encouragement from the undead. Your enthusiasm is the lifeblood of this podcast, and whether your support comes through Patreon with dollars, or through iTunes with reviews, or through recommendations to friends and family, or through pastries, we appreciate it all. You can contact us through our website at charactercrusade.com. And until next time, remember,
It's not about the objective.
It's about,
the journey.
So
go
go
forth
and
experience.
Bow.
Bow. Bow, 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 bow. right. Bitchin'. Bitchin'. How Davy Jones would say it. Bitchin'. Bitchin'.
A cruel man, Jack Sparrow.
Jack Sparrow. I love that guy.
Where's my journal? Wait, just Ralph's in my satchel.
Oh, found it.
Oh, the pages are stuck together.
I gotta let Matt do it first. God, we gotta get that air guitar on film one of these times. Awesome.
Excellent.
Wicked. Totally.